Welcome into your restorative practice. I want us to set up so we have a blanket or a towel at the back of our space, and it's a really low height. So you can also do this with almost minimal blanket. So it could be lower than I have. I have it folded a few times. So it's going to support just my brain. So letting a little bit of touch be from my kind of occiput, the shelf and above, which is in a lot of space. And then my bolster is lengthwise on my mat. And then I like to have a rolled up blanket or towel at the base. Some people teach this with a block under each foot. Or if you have a second bolster, that's really nice because you can just kick it away when you're done with it. And the blanket sometimes adds a little more stuff that you have to deal with to move. So if you've got another bolster, you can put that here, or blocks or a blanket. And you can try however you want to organize these props to set up for supported bridge. So I've got a belt, it's buckled up, it's going to be on the side yard. I got a couple blocks of soft therapy ball and a sandbag. So why don't we begin like we're sitting on a sled and we're on the edge on the short end, and we'll have a wall space nearby. Perhaps we'll be using that for some functional motion today, but I want you to find the reach of the legs to the other side of the blanket or the towel roll, so that when you lie back, this is going to be under your calves. So I'm going to kind of nudge it towards my heels, and I'm just going to see if I get lucky and this supports me enough. But I don't want you to feel like you have to get up and down and pull your back out here. So get on the very, very edge of your bolster, okay, or your sled. And then as you lower back, your sandbag is going to get back by the side, so it'll be easy to get on top of your core. But as you lie back lengthwise on the bolster, the back of your head is going to be on that blanket just in the center. Okay, so C7, and the shoulders are off the floor, but the shoulders can basically, they're floating a bit, but the lower tip of the shoulder blades are on the bolster ledge. Okay, so it feels a little vulnerable, like, I'm just trying to get that front space of the body to elongate. In the beginning, it might mean that you need to bend your knees and then come back down to the legs, reaching to the blanket or the towel. Okay, but at first, the base of your cervical vertebrae is going to feel like it's in kind of a cervical spout. I like to call it the cervical spout. And what comes out of that cervical spout is, I suppose, your occiput right here. And as you add a sandbag, if you want to add some weight, you're going to place that either across the thigh lids, but if your knees are bending, if this is your version right now, knees bending, you can have the sand across the ribs. Or if it just feels kind of not super functional for you to have sand approaching you right now, you could be sandless. Okay, so it's either a sandasana, a sanded asana, or sandless. Yeah, just make that decision. Okay, and then as the arms feel like they're 3/4 of an arm, because parts of the arm connection are lifted a bit on this bolster. So you want to feel that the chest has this unusual wave of concentration, like it's almost like it's a bulky area, but you're going to slowly be able to release it. So find the ground with your arm parts that can touch it. And if you're kind of all the way down the shoulders, they're pushed on the floor, then you might just carefully come up and reset. You can almost never be on the end of the bolster enough to lie back lengthwise, I find. Okay, so if you really need to get to the very tip of that bolster and then come back again, give it a try. Now we all have different lengths, that's true. So if that doesn't work for you, you can always do things like set another bolster or a high stack of blankets at the base and sit on that, so you get sufficient amount of support for the back to touch. And with the time of concentration here, resting the body back on the props, just scanning the spatial outline of the front body, and then feel the back body's pressure. right? Feel where pressure is around even the arch of the lumbar and the tailbone area. If the feet can float, that would be nice. So you can just let them relax. And guide that motion of the breath to relax the belly and soften into the psoas. Now, arms are either down by the sides or they're outwards, kind of in the shape of the letter T. Not so much a goalpost position, right? So you want to find that you can soften these front spaces via the shape and just let a few more moments unwind. And if the bones don't feel like they change their hold, which is great, you want to feel the bones are kind of holding the shape, but what's inside, the whole skin, the tissues, if that still feels a little bit of kind of tensing, then we're going to start to get some movement and see how that can kind of jostle the tissues. That's kind of the practice I like to lead, is that pathways of the body. We're kind of starting to work our way into it. We have to start somewhere. Okay. So let's slide the sand off and let's take a cobbler's pose. So that's going to be just simply the soles of the feet together, the knees out. So I'm going to walk my feet in towards the bolster and then feet together, knees apart. So find a variation here. If you're quite short, you might find that you kind of are lucky. You can put your feet on the bolster and get a little more stretch. But I find that a little bit concerning for the knee pressure. So I just let the feet be on the floor. And then feeling kind of the reach of the motion of the inner leg, the adductors, the leg pits. Just give it a few moments here. It's a briefing. So my elbows are a little more bent right now, so I can feel like the knees bend, the elbows draw in. So they're not touching my bolster, but they're a little out to the side yard. And then kind of scan how that left thigh is rotating out. And then point the left knee up, sole of the foot down, right ankle crosses up and over to that left knee, and right knee relaxes out in figure 4. So just kind of feel how these patterns, now if your chin starts to pull a little bit upwards, that's pretty natural on this shift with our leg and our spine. You might bring one hand to the base of the skull and just kind of feel that operating motion of arching and flexing, and maybe nod your head a tiny bit and see if you can feel back to that shelf at the back of the skull touching down. I'm kind of moving my chin up a little more than I ought to, so I'm going to be a little aware of that. So I want a little squeeze into the throat. And then I shift sides. So right foot down, left foot lifts up, crossing that left ankle to the right knee. Left knee releases open. And just feel that sense of, and this shape I admit is a little bit off balance for me. So I'm going to just commit to it for a few more moments until I go into what's a little more symmetrical for the tailbone. So kind of feel the differences here in the hip, or maybe just stay with where you are versus comparing. Feel the management of muscles, muscle management. And then as you move the left knee up, you can feel where the muscles kind of have that peak tension, the tone. And now with this movement of the legs, we're going to turn the bolster horizontal across the back of the pelvis. So walk your feet in. They don't have to move that wide. I don't want you to feel like your knees have to get pulled across. But what I find helpful is just to slide back on the bolster. Okay, now I've got this whole kind of shoulder stand feeling going on. So walk on back, and then I'm going to get a hand to the bolster and push the bolster across from underneath, turn it, and then I'm going to slide the bolster under the back of my pelvis, and it will take a little bit of organizing things that I have on, things that are pushing onto the bolster, And then as you lift up your feet, take these moments to alternate knee to chest, just to kind of get the fussy out of the back, the fussy out. So I'm going to keep the blanket under my head, but push it back so I've got enough support. And then with this motion, alternate knee towards chest, and just kind of play with the balancing of the muscles, the coordinates, right, from my back to my core. So you certainly could hold on to the knee as it draws in, or just feel, this is a segue into our inversion practice, which is quite stimulating for the healing body, which is a nice topic, the healing body. What is the healing body? So as you alternate the motion, kind of feel where the abdominals now are getting pulled, and then make sure the bolster is holding you. Okay, so if it's too far up, it will feel uncomfortable in the back likely. If it's too far down, you don't get enough support. So you might put your feet down and then just feel if you can nudge the bolster side to side, you think it's pretty balanced here. And then let's go in with the knees and let's get a belt. And we'll slide it so we place it to our feet first and the legs going up. Okay, now if you feel you need more blanket and the curve in the back, you need a little bit more of the flexion, you can move your blanket a little higher. You can fold it once more. But in general, we don't want more roundedness in the neck. Okay, so now with the legs up, I'm going to just pull. So I have a little bit less loop, but we're going to be alternating as we did knee to chest. We're going to stretch the left leg down, cross the right leg over to the left, and start to feel that sorting out of the legs. So it's going to be a leg sorting experience for a little bit of time. So right leg crosses to the left, the bottom leg, you could kick away that blanket if you don't like it anymore for this positioning. I like to feel just different textures under versus just the mat. So as the right leg crosses to the left, hold on with that left hand and breathe. Feeling that outline of the thigh into the back of the pelvis. Right arm could stretch open, no sand on. Just notice how you translate this movement kind of dialogue in the corridor of the body, right? This corridor through the center vine and then into the kind of the vines of the legs. I guess a leg could be considered a vine of sorts, or maybe a branch. And then as you come up, feel if you can make that motion where it's straight up, and there might be a little bit of resistance in the side of that right leg. So hold, so you get the calf a little bit caffeinated here. To the ball of the foot, pull, so the back line of the leg feels that rich sensation, that nourishment. I like to think of the practice as nourishing. And then just bring the left leg up and take the crossover. So left foot in the belt, right leg relaxes down, hold the belt together with your right hand and cross the left leg. And get a feel when you're crossing over the motion in the hip. Maybe I control it a little bit more at one side. Maybe I'm holding with both hands, and then I just let that left arm go so you can feel the concentrate, the hip concentrate. So as I push into the belt, I have a couple factors working here: holding the belt, pushing into the belt. Who's in charge? Is it your hand or is it your foot? Or is it the psoas? I mean, there's a lot of areas you can blend your focus that is helpful for you today. So simply fielding that reach through the hip. Take a few more moments here. So when you're feeling that reach through the heel, I want you to come back on up and take a leg float. So we'll bring the right foot up, hold on for a moment, just pull on the belt. Let's get the caffeinated more motion be into the leg. And If it's an energy that's pulling behind the knee to the sitting bone, I want you to get a feeling of maybe a little micro bend of the left knee so you can experience the calf stretching. Okay, now it flows into all the myriad of motions in the leg when we go to leg float. So when we bring the right leg up, as long as you're comfy on your bolster, you can do any of these things without your bolster. If it's just feeling like this inversion idea, adding it to the mix is too much energy flow into your body, you can always take the bolster away. And now as you push outwards with your feet, now I'm moving my legs so they're in a wide stance. And I'm gonna just tug on the belt because it's buckled up, it's in a loop. You might decide to go hands-free. You might decide to hold on to it. Just depends on the response in your legs. If they're shaky, right? That's definitely something you might have to consider for the moment. It could change any one day to the next, right? You don't really necessarily know how the legs will respond. So feel that reach. Feel the energy of the leg bones settling into the, not so much the hip socket like we would in Viparita Karate legs waterfall, but it's an interesting compilation of movements, right? Through the adductors, the leg pits, and then how it senses in your sacroiliac, kind of these interesting primary hip muscles. I think of this as primary hip, but maybe I made it up. All right, I heard it somewhere. Okay, so finding stillness or movement, up to you. A little bit of rocking might be therapeutic. Stillness might be just what you ordered. Resting your eyes back into the brain. You're closing a few tabs open in the brain and just feel in your body. And you might sense where the back muscles are elevated on the bolster. And the distinction of the back, lower back into the upper back. So take a moment where you're loading up kind of the energy in the lungs. When we're upside down, we're putting more pressure, right? The diaphragm has a little workout, the core has a workout, but even all the way up into the respiratory tree, the heart gets a break. It's joyful right now because the blood's returning to it. It doesn't have to pump it down to the feet, but the lungs get some pressure. So strengthening into them, endurance. Okay, now bending your legs, let the hands reach up to the belt if you don't already have the hands holding it, and then start to come into brain float, okay? Or it could be arms reaching brain float, right? Or arm float, it doesn't have to be belt behind your head. So what you want is a big enough loop, so if I lower my left leg, as I have the right leg up, I like to find, well, I think this is vertical. I mean, I don't know exactly. It's probably pulling a little bit back, but I want to loosen this up enough, make it big enough that it would reach towards the crown of my head easily. That's a good guesstimate of how much of a big of a loop do you need? Okay, now, you do want to bring it behind your head. So how you could do that is either pulling your leg, that's a good one, or lifting your head. What seems like the best option would probably be to pull the leg, even if you bend it. And then you might have to lift your head a little bit. I'm going to try to just move the leg, see if I can lift my head the smallest amount. Okay, and then slide the belt to the shelf at the back of your skull. And you can definitely tighten it up. It's very individualized here. Now, before we stand up, if you don't want to have the belt behind your head, it's not on your neck, you can hold the belt, so bring your hands to the side of your head and stretch the arms back. So the belt's between the webbing of the thumb and the index, right into that thenar web space here. Yeah, I like this quite a bit. I just like variations, different ways to kind of heat in the body. But sandbag is a nice option here. And as you add it to the top of that left thigh, I'm liking this blanket under my left leg. So if you lost your blanket or you kicked it away, you might bring it back. If you were using a bolster on that first pose, you might want just a blanket under your foot because the bolster would be too much for the knee, right? It would maybe hyperextend it. So as your head is leaning back into the belt, feel the back line of the legs, actually the right leg only. And then the arms are, they could be something you kind of play with, right? You could bring your arms up onto the bolster, relax your wrists. You can move your arms out to the sides, but let the weight of your head, which doesn't really feel like that's the weight right now, it feels like it's the hamstring in the whole back right leg stretching. But you are holding up a precious and necessary part of you. So just let that fluid, right, the cerebrospinal fluid, let that, just feel that circulation up there. You might not really notice that deeper, just that I don't quite notice that fluid, but we are doing more than just like these bigger parts, the muscle motions, but connecting to the brain. And then as you feel a few more rounds of breath here, maybe you lighten it up, right? So maybe you loosen the belt if it's like a lot on the leg for you. You don't have to keep pushing it. You might decide you're going to take the belt off of the back of your head and hold it behind you. And you might kind of do small movements with your head, nothing big, but adjust so you can feel that kind of cranial sacral support. This is a pretty cool one for that because you got a bolster under the sacrum. And you got the belt at the cranial nerve system right here holding that entry into the brain entry. Breathing, brain entry 1. Okay, do a little scan of how this side is, right? Do you have the leg? How high up do you have the right leg? So when you go to the second side, you can try to find a balance. That could be closing your eyes and just sense, especially as you have sense of your coordinating these parts. You may have lived in your body a while, but sometimes it kind of throws you for a loop. So pull the sand onto the belly, unless you don't want to get out of the pose yet. And then you just switch sides. You might keep the belt at your head, you might hold. For me, I'm feeling a little knee strain, so I'm going to bend it. And then as I switch sides, I kind of like the feel of that little tug at the brainstem. But with both feet up, it's going to feel a little bit tighter, right? So you want to lower the right leg and just take your time. Yeah, in fact, if you're in a shape and you want to stay a little longer and I kind of get on a different track, you can always just stay in your shape. Put in your earplugs. Okay, now turn the sand down the length of that right thigh, so at the top and straight down. And then with that reach of the left leg and the right hip flexor in psoas. Okay, so feel if there's any awareness that's coming in for the core response. Okay, if my back releases, I still have a tugger right at my head, the belt. And if you want to opt out of the belt at the back of your head, not your neck, right, your head, you can always hold on to the belt with your palms reaching together and the belt weaved at the thumb and index, like I mentioned before. And now feeling where the back is arching, and then relax into it. whatever's going on in your environment. Breathing, it only helps. A few moments here. So we are going to be shifting quite unusual zone of the reach of the leg into the spine coming up, and I want it to be very comfortable for the joints, for the motionary patterns that we're adding in. This is a pretty extensive reach, right, of both sides, one the front of the leg and one the back of the leg. So it kind of gets some flow into them. But it's not everything, right? It's not connecting at all, right? You want to find the connection at the center of gravity, your pelvis. Okay, now if the weight of your head leans back a little bit more, enjoy that. It is okay if your head is kind of touching the blanket, or if it's just hovering and you can kind of feel that. It does kind of feel nice if I need to loosen the belt, that's fine, or bend the left knee to kind of touch down to the blanket too. It's almost as if that gives me a sense of relaxation. So arms are on the bolster, arms are out to the sides. And since this is kind of an active shape, you could have your arms back behind you. Okay, we're not like trying to be all focused on blood pressure at this moment. We're not quite there yet. Okay. All right, now, as you shift, as you can, right, as you can move along, as we should, we'll move our sand, and we're going to take the belt. So I'm going to bring my hands inside to my hands are on the sides of the skull. Bend the right knee, slide it in. I like to complete this with the belt off my head, both feet, both legs straight up. I mean, feet are up, I guess, but I don't think that means straight up. But as you reach back with the hands, palms together, right, kind of feel where the ribs are responding here. So if I pull the belt a little bit back, and then maybe I push the feet a little forward, I can kind of feel that coordination in the core plan here. Okay, so I don't want you to grip the belt, like tighten your fists or anything, but I want you to try to have palms together. If you need to shorten it up and make the loop smaller, that's fine. I'm going to do that and make it a little smaller. Now, what are we doing? So we're going to move the legs both a little bit downwards from 90 degrees to maybe 60 to kind of wake up that core. Now I'm keeping my elbows bent a little bit. I could straighten the arms and kind of shoot the hands towards the ceiling, but just wake up in that side frame of the abdominals. The abdomen might dome up. It might be kind of hyper aware of this experience here. And then feel if you can squeeze the legs together and bring the legs straight up. So the arms are going to try to straighten out. So back to that verticality. Okay, and then legs go back down. I don't intend for you to put your legs on the floor here. So you're going from 90 degrees, maybe down to 60. Maybe that's too much, maybe just a little bit. And then squeeze the legs together to come back on up. Now you could repeat that over and over and feel a good core experience, but let's move along. Let's take our belt off our feet and let's come into a little bit of side to side happiness with the ball. Okay, so if you don't have a ball, you could use a block at the narrow setting center of the knees for this. It would be fine. So ball, center of the knees or block, squeeze the ball, keep squeezing it, and then bring the knees over to the right side or the left. You only got two sides. If you go left, no worries. Okay, relax the grip on the ball because that's just natural. And then come back and center. In breath, squeeze the ball. And then out breath, relax the grip on the ball as the knees go to the left. Okay, just kind of feel the corridor of breathing here. So as I come back center, I just squeeze. And then as I exhale, belly towards the spine, I relax and move my knees to the side. Okay, now without any major directions, just simply go side to side. If you want to entertain the idea of squeeze the ball, etc., you can do that, but just let the knees go side to side. Keep it simple. Easy does it. Crossing over, side to side. And you have the opportunity, you can move the knees towards the arm and make like the smiley face on the back, right? A little bit of lift. That can feel kind of interesting for our back muscles. Just notice before we come down, because we're coming down next to bridge flows, what impact this has on your breathing muscles, because it does have a bit on the lungs. If you've done this a long time, you might not really notice it, but it's a nice little strengthener here. As I'm upside down, I got my hips up on the bolster. Breathing, notice the length of your inhale. And then when you get off the bolster, it'll probably be easier to lengthen it because you have a little bit of pressure right now on your lungs as your hips are up. So come back center. You're like, how can that be so exciting for her? Okay, so knees are center, and then I'm going to move them in. I keep the ball or the block center of the knees. And then I'm going to push the bolster downwards. Now, careful here. You don't want to suddenly drop your tailbone too fast. You got to go carefully. And it's like, okay, now I can feel that base. Okay, so as I put my feet on the bolster, I bring my arms up towards the ceiling, squeeze the ball, and lift the hips up and stretch the arms over. Now, it doesn't mean they have to be touching the ground, but the back of the hand might be a good completion. And then you're going to stride down the spine. I like the idea of striding. I know striding sounds like it's walking, but you're kind of walking the pathway of the touch into the back, into the spinal spaces. So alternate that lift and lower. This could be a perfect one to get rid of your blanket. This, if you like, I have blanket dependency issues. So I like to have it under my head for these, but my teacher would probably say, no, I have to get prepared for that this summer. We'll have to go a month without the blanket in July probably, and then I'll be ready. Okay, at least under your head. So now when you come on up, this next time or two, just feel the up. Like, what does it mean like we go up? We go up with pelvis, okay? And that's pretty high up. I mean, I can't see where everybody's at. I'm not going to come stare where you're at with how high you're lifting. That's not, no competitions here. But do notice like where the energy is in the legs, the slack. Sometimes it feels like tightness here in the quads. So what we're going to go with next is you can feel that height go down slowly, spine, back of the rib cage. Okay, now let's take our spine all the way down and then knees to the chest and take your ball. And you're going to place it at the sacrum area. Now the ball is big enough, it's going to feel like sacrum, tailbone, all the same. But when you lift up without the ball between the knees, you're going to roll the ball under and, you know, do what feels comfortable. So if you want to move your hips side to side and kind of massage into that texture into the sacrum, go for it. I'm a big fan of that. So do a little bit of soothing into the sacrum soothing. Okay, and that's probably going to include just lie on the ball, just be on the ball. Just sink into it. Sink. Okay, now arching of the back is part of this. You already are arching because your hips are lifted up and the ball is under you. But how are you going to get both legs to lift up together and work on this lower abdominal area? I like to go into core stuff by, not by what you might typically think, right? Like sit-ups or any of that bad stuff, or cranking into sitting up and taking our boat poses. But just try this, bring the legs up. And if you need to go one leg and then Take a moment, push your hands down, then get the other leg, no problem. Okay. It's because once you're there, who cares how you got there? But once you're up, right, the breath phase might change. You might be holding your breath till it's over, but just breathe. It can only help. Okay, now if you wander a little bit, movement, great. A little bit of movement, like the tiniest subtle movements. Okay, now instead of this lift and lower the leg like we did a while ago with the belt, we're lowering and coming up. We're not going to offer that on this one. But feel if you can move your arms up, and then as you start to guide them back overhead, maybe they go all the way, maybe the shoulders are going to comply with that, but they might not. So for me, I think my legs are like straight up and down, maybe they're a little bit back. So I'm going to just move them a little bit downwards, pressing. Everything's on the ball, like whatever you've got on the ball, let it all be on it. Don't try to levitate off the ball. Okay, now interlace your fingers, push the hands back so you turn them inside out. My arms are off the floor. I'm not feeling super confident about pushing them to the ground right now. Okay, now feel how it moves the circulation to your lungs. I really like how we can strengthen the respiratory muscles on these. So energize the flow of lymph back to the groins, the leg pits, the belly, all where the lymph nodes are. And lymph nodes are our filters for our body's cleanup crew. Okay. And now when we shift, we're going to start to roll a bit. So arms go back up, hands lower down. Help yourself so you can bend your legs. And then as you lower down on the bolster with your feet, you're going to just push the ball over to the left rear and start to motion your hips so they go side to side. Okay. So get a feeling of how that pressure, the emphasis is going to be on pressure on the ball. Sorry, pressure and movement, not just pressure. So pressure and movement equals massage. So I want to glide across the glute, okay? So you really want the ball, you don't want it to be too high, right, although that probably doesn't hurt. You definitely don't want it too low because it's like a nothing sensation there. It's kind of empty. It's kind of dead energy, isn't it? But you want to find where it's kind of meaningful. I like that idea. Where does it feel meaningful when I'm massaging the glute? Meaningful. What does that mean? Is it meaningful? Is this meaningful? So I'm going to kind of push across. So give enough energy into this area that we all know has some holding patterns. It can really get corrupted in here. So work with the pressure and movement, maybe fast, maybe slow. Okay, and then go to the other side. You can lower down all the way in your tush if you want, and then move the ball on its own to the right, then swing the knees to the left, and then you can mount upon it. Just make sure it's not too low. Okay, so kind of feel side of the hip, the thigh, upper outer thigh, roll it under. That way you can mount up on the ball without tightening up your glutes or gripping them. So there's all these kind of ways to roll. So a block would not work for this, I don't think. They do make some blocks that are like the egg shape, so I guess those might work, but I think it has to be kind of a softer. I suppose you could use a tennis ball for this one. That's not completely unusual. It has done quite a bit, right? So as I go across, I don't want to bully my tissues. So I'm just moving. There shouldn't be an ouch on this one if you have a soft ball. A softer ball. So feeling as you glide across second side here. Okay, now I want us to keep the ball kind of there on the right, so it's on the right side. We're going to center on the left rear. We're going to bring the left leg up and cross it over the right leg, and then let the knees descend over to the left. Okay, this is where you might need a block, or maybe you don't want the ball on the right side, you're going to put over on the left under the leg. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is just pivot that block if it's there, if it feels like you don't have enough support, or kind of go for it and just feel if you can move your legs over to stretch your upper outer right thigh TFL area, a little bit of IT band. It might be a lot of IT band for some of us. Now, if this is too much on your knee, we're not going to be here long, but that doesn't mean you have to be in it. So if it's too much pressure on the knee, you can always take the knees over to the right side. It might feel a little easier. You'll see what I mean by that. And you can always pass, because we are doing right side. You can do like a figure 4 with right ankle to left knees, and that would be a good modification. Okay. All right. So just a few moments. This is not a good one to hold long. It's a counter pose. Okay, now I go back in center and I just switch. So right leg over left, move the ball to the left side, kind of push it in there so it's kind of stuck at your tush. And then move a block if you've got one over on the right side. You don't have to use a block. You don't have to use a ball. You could do this one completely freestyle without any props. Just cross over. Don't even need a bolster if you don't want that. Okay, left arm is open now. If I'm leaning to the side, I'm isolating. So my upper half is not twisting so much. This is incredibly important, right? So I'm not like turning my upper body over. I'm trying to keep my back basically pretty flat between my shoulder blades. Okay, not easy. I understand that sometimes this left arm's not going to go down. It's going to kind of roll up. So do what you can. Maybe you need more blanket under your head. Maybe you fold it one more time. And that does, it helps you keep flat because it's going to affect the curves in the spine. It's going to give you a little enhancement at the neck. So all these little things actually help. Take a few breaths here. Breathing and balancing. Okay, we're doing quite a bit of wiring in the hip and the leg parts right now until we get to our sage poses. It'll be a little bit of time. Okay, now as we shift, no sand on this one, shift the ball and the pose. So we uncross. And now you kind of feel a little bit what you did in the shape. You felt the energy and it goes away pretty fast, doesn't it? It kind of goes, whew. It only happens in the pose. What happens in the pose stays in the pose, I guess, huh? All right. Okay, so hold the back of the thighs, rock a little side to side. Okay. And then we're going to roll on up and meet our bolster. Okay, so you're going to roll either to the side. This is super safe, right? Coming on up, or you can roll on your spine and do some boat posing. But let's come on up and get a blanket, fold it up, make sure this is at least this high, right? You want to have a quarter fold. I find for what we're going to do with our seated shape is I would take 2 blankets. So I'd have it about the height of a bolster, right? I would just take 2 folded up or 2 beach towels, and then I'll take a seat on those so that I have enough height for my back to be happy. Okay. Actually, for my hips to be happy too. Happy hips, happy back. So right foot's going to go up on the bolster. Now let's see how we'll go with this one. So have your bolster lengthwise in front of you. The higher you get up on the blankets or towels, the better you're going to feel from the shape that you're in with the hips. And then place the right foot on top of the bolster. If the left knee is upset about this, which it might be, you can stretch the left leg out and you can put a ball under it. Okay, I like this a lot. So we're kind of starting to work our way up into the leg balance as our base, our foundation, and then we're going to work up the spirals of the spine and the vital organs here. So either left leg is out, I kind of like that, or it's bending, which seems advanced, but this just feels happier on my knee. Okay, sand on the right thigh, up high like a hip hugger. So you're going to put the sand up high. And at first, feel if you can lean a little bit forward. And remember, if your left leg is extending, you might want a ball under it. If it's not and you're bending, you still might put a ball under the left knee. Right, this still might help out. So if you've got blocks in front, under hands, high setting, right, up all the way. And then when you lean forward, maybe this right foot is going to be able to move. It might be sort of stuck. It might feel kind of stiff in the ankle. So just having the foot flexing is good enough, right? I wouldn't say you have to wiggle your foot, but if it's kind of neutral and it can't really move, it's just feeling tight, just let the foot be on the bolster. It's enough. It doesn't have to be forced into more flexing. So the inner leg is stretching, the hands are reaching forwards. Breathing. Finding as you're moving forward that you're trying to get some heat into this back area before we twist into it, because we don't want to twist this area, the mid back area, without it being warm enough. So that might be for you a little bit of cat-cow, right? You might arch the spine and then move your head down and feel the levers holding the position, the foundation, the legs and the arms, but the mid body has that movement. Okay, now slide the blocks back and then take a turn to the right. I'm going to take a block with me behind me with that block under my right hand. And then as the left hand holds to that right leg, now it could be below the knee, it could be on the knee, it could be above the knee. Really customize it, but I want you to get a feel for this. Left arm is kind of rotated in and the right is turning out. We do this a lot with our hip and our leg work in class. So I recognize that some of us are gonna just kind of barrel through and push. So feel if you can let this right shoulder rotate back, truly, left hand hold, and then as you're positioning that turn, you might bring your block a little further behind you so you can stretch out your breathing muscles. We usually do this with our sage poses, but I'm trying to get those kind of towards the, like the final, maybe in about 5 minutes we'll go to those. But I want you to try to work from the inside up with the hips and the spine before we just kind of lie on our bolster. That's kind of what it is. What's wrong with lying on a bolster? Okay, now let's come forward, take your block with you, okay, but bring your right arm across the chest, left hand to the right elbow, or you can hold on to the elbow with your left hand, or you can just give yourself a hug. I haven't had any hugs today, so I'll just go ahead and give myself a hug. So right hand reaches back, kind of squeezing the blades a little bit. Visualizing that it's wishing my cat would hug me. Maybe I don't, I would get claws, but I'm visualizing my cat Sage. Okay. All right, now as we start to shift out of this one, let's kind of notice how we can flush out the legs. So as you release the arms, which is kind of lifting the back up, take the right leg off the bolster. If you did that with the sandbag, you get extra credit. It's a little bit of pressure on the femur, but we can always use femur help. So we lean forward. Now let's say your left leg was out the whole time. Well, you'll have both legs out. No big deal. You can have left leg bending, left leg outing, your left leg's on an outing. Lean forwards. Hey, if it's a knee thing, right, which is sometimes your middle can't do much about a knee thing, about inflammation. So your work is on lifting, breathing, and leaning forward. You now switcheroo. So left leg goes out, right leg draws in. Okay, I'm going to move my sand to my left leg so I know what's coming up is the next side. Okay, so I just lean forwards. Now let's say you have both legs out. That's, again, some of us, that's going to be where we're at with our knees. Maybe we have a ball under, maybe we don't. You can have a block under each knee too. Okay, and now lower the bolster and place your left foot up. If you need to give it some help, just grab a hold of the leg and bring it up. So turn the thigh out. So this is interesting because the thigh turns and rotates. It's way off the ground now. I don't need a ball, but I'll use it on the other side under the right knee, or the right leg stretches out. Okay. I mean, you could be all legs all over the place here reaching. Okay, so take a block set in front, and if this hinge at the hips is kind of curious for you, kind of feel that midsection, especially belly and up, trying to just lift a little bit and then lean forward. And just kind of accept where you're at. Sometimes it's like I can't quite get that much inhale to get up. And I'm working on my breath to get myself to go in and up. But this is what I got. So acceptance is a wonderful thing. Sometimes you accept, right? Sometimes it's just going to be some of your practice. That's where you can accept. That's all right. So leaning forwards, feeling the arch. Now take a twist. Left hand reaches back with the block, right hand to the knee, the left knee or just below or above, and have that pure motion from my waist. I mean, my mid spine, my mid back is turning. And just embody that movement of the belly. And you want to find just the right amount, right? Like, so sometimes you get a cue from a class, a teacher, well, and we're different. Like I'm talking and how I'm feeling, you're going to be feeling different about it too. So use it as an outline, right? Use it as just a guide. And you might get some really interesting experiences to share, right? How could we go do this different? So make notes if you like. Take notes. Don't make notes, take notes. But as you're turning, there's always further to go. So how do we do that? It's usually leverage. So with osteo issues, it's not a great idea to do force and range or use leverage to get the twist. So I've got to find that inhale and then the exhale. That's my max. So that's what I have to accept. This is what I get. Okay, now when you do start to come back forward, we just take the leg that's on the bolster, the foot that's up, and we stretch it out. That's all we're doing. And then we're going to move the bolster up. Okay. So now, as we get ready for our sage poses, I want you to get a feel of from your sitting bones reaching. How does this feel? Because we'll be on the side of the sitting bones. We're going to kind of turn the weight into the hip in a bit. But as you're reaching forwards, feel in the middle the movement. And maybe you're thinking there's more to do than I can right now to get this middle to lift. I mean, with gravity, everything kind of drops, right? That's just what gravity will do to us. So feel the motion leaning forwards. Okay, now lower bolster or just drop it. You don't have to make it perfect here. And then take that, let's see, we'll have her stand on the left side of our space. And let's move our left leg back. Now, too many blankets is terrible on the knees on this one. So toss a blanket, come on back, and then come to hands, knees carefully. Right, don't twist your knee. Blanket's gonna go overhead in a bit, but first things first. Okay, so play with this one. If you got a wall space nearby, you're gonna use it because it'll be nice. So you're gonna go forwards. So the thighs are on the bolster. And what my goal here is to touch the wall. I'm clearly too close to the wall, right? So we're gonna do our core work. You know how we do we've been doing lots of core today, but how we do tummy time and Sphinx pose and all those things. So the bolster is on part of my thigh. It's not all in this middle. Okay, it's a little bit on the thigh. So you have to kind of make your way down. And this is the part I was kind of wonder how people will respond. Okay, so if I didn't have the wall, I would really be upset because I just don't have that core ability. So if I have my hands up at the wall, and you can let your head lean down so your chin is relaxing. It's not squeezing to your chest, but it's just straight forward for the neck reach. But let the arms reach up. Now, if I go too far up, like, you know, that's like a little too much. But this is a way that we work on our primary, the baby back bends, right? When you do things like hold your feet and all these crazy things, and you put your hands over your head and hold your feet. But this is where we're gonna go. This is our max. So press, feel the belly push into the bolster. Keep that energy pressing. Okay. Now, since that area has touch, you're gonna lower down the hands, press, lift up, try not to be too pushy because cobras don't have limbs, right? So just let your hands lightly, I guess press is the bad cue. So just hands touch. Okay, now elbows by your sides like they're glued in, and then come on up and let's come back to either a down dog or a forearm dog. So if you're gonna do, or dolphin. So your toes are under, lifting up the knees, stretch back. So that core body that had all the touch doesn't have it anymore, okay? Now if this ain't your thing, you could always do forearm dog or dolphin and lifting up. They call this dolphin. Now, if I'm here, it's a lot of upper body work. But you know, it's not any wrist issue. There's no wrist issue with it. So you can also have a block between your hands and come up that way. Squeeze the block. Okay, push back. Okay, take a few moments. Those of you that can do down dog are going to be like, well, gosh, I hope I can do down dog for a little longer in my life because it's a little easier, right? It's a lot with your elbows down. It's a lot of upper body. So breathing. Okay, let's take Uttanasana. So forward fold. Walk your hands back to your feet and then bend the knees. Walk your feet towards your hands and meet somewhere at the back of that space in our forward fold. So you might bend your knees a lot here. You might try to straighten them out. But as you hold on to your elbows, do a little side to side motion, kind of like elephant swing. Just let the neck release down. Yeah, there's a whole therapeutic element to this inversion, right? Head below the heart. Yeah, this feels a little more of a true inversion as far as the skeletal shift with the brain down versus when I'm on my back with my head below my heart. This is a lot more head below the heart. That's why your blood pressure gets low in this one. So just feel how you capture your inhale and then you let it go. Maybe relax the hold. Bend your knees. Let's start to walk your hands forward. Be careful, caution for the wrists, but slow. Use your legs a lot to bring you forward. Push into the feet, hips distance. And then as you lower your knees down, you're going to turn your bolster into finally something you know in the class, the sequencing. Take a side sage. So let's get down to our right hip next to the bolster. So we're going to turn the bolster, as I mentioned, across. But what you're going to want here is a blanket, maybe under your hip. Like if it's, the floor is a little uncomfy, I stack up a bunch of mats, but if you need a blanket under your right hip, you can place it next to the bolster like this and sit on it, okay? Otherwise, you're going to have your blanket on the other side and you're going to stack up a couple blankets or towels, beach towels. I gotta truly try that sometime because I always say that you can use beach towels and I never use beach towels. How would she even know? Okay, so block on the other side or the wall. The wall is great for this. So if you don't have your block on the other side, but your wall is in reach, you're gonna enjoy that. Okay, ball. Well, where are you? Under the left knee. Lean in. Pull that bolster so it's right up with you. So it's as if it's part of you. It's like, it's part of my core. So I'm leaning into my side and I'll take that sand up and over to my left hip. Hip says thank you later. for that little weight bearing, and then I just lean in. You don't have to use a sandbag. If you're just feeling sand averse right now, no worries. So right arm is between the bolster and the blankets or beach towels, and the left hand could touch the wall. Like, see, this to me feels good, but it's a little bit of strain right on the outer side. So I'm feeling a little pull here, which is not bad. But if it starts to leak into the joint and you're feeling like, ouch, then it's a sign from inside to let the hand lower down, or maybe you lower it all the way down to the bolster. This feels pretty good too. So experience the directions in the body, right? The change of the movement of fluids into the organs. You just squeeze and compress into the liver on this side, into the lungs, kind of taking gravity off your spine, and feel what ribs move apart here. Then you might just lower down that upper arm so it's easy for you to focus on that core body, getting that massage. That's okay. So the arm it's a nice thing to do for your musculoskeletal system to get this reach. That's nice, but maybe at the final moments of the pose, just soften it up a bit. Or maybe you want to keep it overhead. It is up to you. But feel where the weight of your head leans down. Where the stretch is through the neck, relaxing your neck. And breathe. Let's take a sleeping sage pose. You're gonna have to pretend someone can put sand on your shoulder blades on this one. So when that left arm lowers down, move the sand away from the hip. You might find, I just tend to go minus the sand period, even though you could figure out a way to put it up on your back. If you've got someone around, you could say, hey, I need help with the sand, but otherwise, don't worry about it. So left knee to the right foot. So I'm no longer going to push my leg back at all. I'm going to turn, and you could do this, the sleeping sage, without moving your bolster. Some people like this. If you don't have much of a chest, this one can feel just fine, but it is smushy, okay? I like the bolster up on the blanket. I just like this. I just turn it, goes up on it, and I put my other blanket on top, and then turning the rib cage. Yeah, doesn't a twist like this feel a little bit more comfy, right? Versus the seated version when you were kind of pushing to rotate. So this is a little more cozy. So I think the nervous system responds a little better to this one just because there's less tension, right? You can find where it gives the right amount of pull along the sides of the spine, giving that hydration, that fluidity between the discs. That's the key. And then just breathing into that right side. Yeah, just let all the weight lean into the prop so that you can massage into the organs here. Instead of resisting and trying to hover over the bolster, just let go. Okay, now, if there's a part of you that's clutching, like I noticed my right hand was kind of gripping, tightening. So when you do switcheroo, just let your hands gently push and take a reclining cobbler. So turn to the back for a moment, just a moment in between sides. The tailbone is at the, well, really it's kind of sacrum tailbone at the short end of the bolster. Move your spine back. Cobbler might be too much right now, right? It might be just a little too much. So feet together, knees out, that's up to you. It might be better to have knees together, just a few breaths here in constructive rest between sides. And you have to decide what's the most complementary balance between the counter pose, right, and between the two sides. And then start to come to that second side. So we're going to start with side sage first. So we just roll to the left and we just turn the bolster across. So I just pull it, turn, ball under my right knee. I got that sand somewhere back there. I'm going to kind of feel for that and then place it on the outer right hip. Okay, now with that balance, left arm is between the bolster and the blankets. I guess they're stacked up. Okay. All right. And then I lean in. And now I guess the word leaning intends to like be kind of efforting again. So find a way to just let your body lie into the props. Okay. And sometimes there's an inquiry into the shoulder and the muscles here, which, you know, if it works okay to reach with the arm today, then reach with the arm. If it's, you know, a little grippy, for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel great, you don't have to dissect it. You could just put the hand down or put it on the side. Hand on the side. Okay. And then feeling that coordination through the rib spaces, reaching, breathing. Okay, now take the twist here. So when we turn, we feel maybe a counter stretch, so opening up through a counter spin through the armpit chest on the right side. And then when we rotate, right, you might be kind of anticipate all the actions. So it might be helpful just to push your sand off, anticipate motion, but feeling motion as loosening things up here. That's the key, I think, for these. So if your blanket at the bottom, you need to bring it up a little higher. That's up to you. Let's say you come down and even with the blanket on top, it's just not enough. You can always add a block under your bolster. I know this seems like an awful lot of support, but you never know how you're entering in. I'm not going to use a ball under my leg, but you can if you need. It's a little much on the knee joint to push it though. So you could even use a block under it instead of the blanket on top. The blanket on top might help the neck curve though. So if I turn my head to the right, I don't have anything here on my neck, right? Then it's almost like it's jarring to my jaw bone, which is maybe good for some, maybe not. Everyone's different, right? Some of you might go, I love this block idea. This is the best thing ever. Some of us might need a blanket. Okay. Now, some of us might be wearing a turtleneck and it works out fine. I don't know. Okay, so head turns to the side and wake up through this side band here in the waist. So feel this stretch through the torso. Yeah, I mean, if you have a sandbag on your back, great, but not required. Okay. Yeah, I love this shape. I love this. I don't put sand on my back because I don't have someone to do that. So if I just lie into the heart and feel that stretch across the blades, Feel the turn in the hip. Okay, now as for hands pushed down, come up. Now, those of you that love pigeon pose, this is going to be your pigeon moment. The rest of us are going to do hip crossover. So those of you that like pigeon, you can just turn your bolster across like so, and bring your left knee out to the left side and the right leg straight back and come down to pigeon. This is a pretty bare pigeon because you don't have the bolster under or blanket, so it's like as far as it goes, right? Pigeon pose. Now the rest of us, we'll just put our bolster on the side of our mat. This is me. And blanket it behind me. And then I just simply cross the left leg over to the right, right? Okay, so those of you in pigeon that want to do the hip that way, perfect. You can do both too. And this way I can put a sandbag on my hip. So I'm going to add, if I can actually get the sandbag to the left thigh and then stretch out my hip this way. So bottom leg is bending. So a little bit easier for some of us, right, with our hip. Not with our hip so much as our knee, probably. Okay, so you can find this is supportive for you. Left leg crosses over, or you can pigeon and this. You can do a little of everything. But as the leg crosses over, the bolster is sort of there. I need a little more support on the bolster. So I'm going to kind of push the sandbag down towards the side of the leg and see if that can help my leg lie into the bolster. And then feeling that feature in the outer left hip. Let's get these areas kind of just heated up before we go into our last pose, legs up the wall. So the hip sockets feel circulation all the way deep into the glute. And if you might find that the shoulders are a little looser to get this openness in the chest, it may be true, it may not. Of accepting where it's at here and receive the benefit from the practice. Okay, now switch sides. Those of you in pigeon are probably feeling like that was a long pigeon. Those of us on our back, we're going to move the bolster to the left side. Careful with your knees moving away, not shocking the sacrum, so my knees are a little bit away. Right leg swings over to the bolster. Now, if you're seated up and you're in the bear pigeon, we'll call it, pigeons and bears. Okay, so knee would be forward. Okay, and then I would move it so I try to lean into my right rear, and then I would turn so the top of my left thigh aims down. Yeah, I usually do this with a bolster under my hips or a blanket, but it's interesting to try something you haven't for quite a while and see where you're at. See what's gotten away from you in mobility. But if the knee is fine, it's okay. But if the knee is unhappy, it's definitely not a good one to do at all. So you have to decide. And even if your knee is okay, but you don't want to do it, you could be on your back in the crossover. Right? You could decide, maybe my knee doesn't even want to think about it. Here I am. Okay. Sand on. Take a few moments. Okay. And kind of scout out your territory in your room for legs up. Like legs up for you might be legs up your bed, legs up an ottoman, a chair. It could be a wall. It doesn't have to be. I think the wall is nice to have for kind of a standard large prop to hold you up, side down. But sometimes the hamstrings don't like that. It's too much stretch. So if you can do it, fine. But if it's too shaky in the hamstrings, you just put your legs up over a chair or bed. Take a few moments here. Feel if the shoulder rolls down and in towards the spine. Feel the opportunity for the heart, the flexibility, that arterial flexibility. And now as we move the sand away, that feels good. I could be in that a little while. We're going to roll to the left. And if you're sitting in pigeon, we're just going to all make our way to legs up so you can have your bolster against the wall, flush with the wall, and then take a blanket. And I would say have it in a pretty good height for your neck, right? I wouldn't have it too low on this one. My teacher might say no blankie, but this is one where you might have an argument for a little of that cranial sacral support. So roll on up. You got to get to the edge of your bolster. Right? You don't want to be just kind of in the middle. You got to be to the side. And you don't have to use a bolster, by the way. Now she says you can use a little blanket, a quarter full blanket this height under your pelvis too for legs up. You can use nothing, right? You could just go legs up with anything under your pelvis. Make it work for you. Right? It doesn't have to be this way. And I'm going to have a little itty bitty space between my parts at the wall. So just a little bit. It's not completely pushing in. I like to have that kind of mystery energy for the fluidity in the legs. So as you bend the knees, you got to change it up over the years. Yeah, you're going to be doing this for a while for your care. You got to find different waves of support, maybe. So I have a sandbag on my feet. You can have one or not. You choose. If you don't have that or you have a bag of weight, you can put that on your feet. You could also do something like put your belt under your feet if it's big enough of a belt and loop around the back of the waist as high as you can go. So you have that connection into your breathing muscles. That can feel amazing for legs up. And then if you have an eye pillow, place that over your eyelids or use your own eye pillows, your eyelids. And then as you come into this inversion, which has a significant impact on healing in the body. So just having that drainage, that reverse flow back to your heart, lungs, brain, just the fluids, right? It doesn't need to be just the idea of blood, but it's lymph, it's fluids in the body. Yeah, sometimes we don't feel very fluid, even though we're a lot of fluids, right? We feel kind of stiff. So that can take over. So feel, especially as we get older, the stiffness can take over sensation and existence. So notice that resistance with your breath and relax your heart. That's the one thing here that can truly occur is the heart relaxes. And feeling that portal from the back of the throat softening. Trying to find ways to soften in the mouth, in the connection to the body through the throat, and into the lungs and the heart. Your eyes might relax in, you might roll your head a little side to side. Now, under the heartbeat, right, you might notice that pulse. You might not be able to slow it down like mechanically right now. Even if you effort more, it definitely might not work, right? If you effort a lot to get that to change. So just feel the fluid change in the body. That could be your biggest measurement of shift, is that fluid change back to the heart. You just feel kind of almost an overwhelm with support for yourself. Acknowledge your effort to be here in practice. If it's anything, right, it could be your heart appreciating that support, that reverse flow. And then just start to shift your feet away from the wall. Bend your knees. If you got a sandbag, you can toss it overhead. Just be careful if you have a glass of water or your eyeglasses or your hands, or you can slide it off of your feet and then hug the back of the thighs. So feeling that extension through your back line, the circulation to your upper back and to your lungs. You could feel the feet tingling here. This is a good sign. And then roll to the side. Let your hands assist you. So feel that rotation. And then as you slowly come on up, you can feel where your seat is on the bolster or the firm ground or your blanket. Find a crossing at the legs and that arrival of the heart back in this other direction where it spends much of its time, unless you're at sleep or yoga. So coming back to reality here. Let your hands slide onto the thighs, palms to palms, either to the hands together or hands touching under your heart and belly, either way. Just approaching this moment, uniting our focus, breathing in wellness. Take a deep breath. And then as we exhale, bowing into the peace behind you.